Welcome once again to the Undiscovered Games video podcast, where we take a look at the lesser-known board games of the world and share those with you. For lucky episode 13 today, we're going to take a look at this cool little train game called Paris Connection, designed by the great John Bohrer and published by Queen Games back in 2011. And this game still holds up today. You're going to be building routes with different colors of trains, as well as affecting the stock market value of those colors and trying to position yourself to have the most valuable trains at the end of the game. It's a very simple game to learn, but it is so tricky to master this one. It has tough decisions every turn, and I would even say this might be the easiest game to learn in my entire board game collection, but it always keeps me coming back for more. In the box, you'll find a one-page rule sheet in many languages, and like I said, this is such an easy game to learn and teach. I mean, you'll be up and running in probably 5 or 10 minutes. These player screens look great, but they are a little fiddly if you don't fold them just right, so keep that in mind. First player marker there, and these are the storage boards for the trains of each color to help you visualize how many trains are left. And each one of these has unique artwork. It just looks great when it's all set up on the table. It adds such a nice visual appeal. I love how this game looks. This board, fully illustrated map of France, with the Eiffel Tower there in the middle, and the wooden trains do look really nice, but I wish they would have used cubes because those can be a bit fiddly. To set up the game, you're going to take a random train of each color and place them around the Eiffel Tower here in Paris. And then you're going to take another train of each color and place it on the matching spot down here, and that will track the value of each train. Throughout the game, you're going to be building routes off of these trains, and every time you hit cities, it's going to affect the value of that color, and the value will increase on this train track over here. And then at the end of the game, each train color will be worth a different amount, and you have to invest in the right colors. Now find a good spot to put these storage boards where everybody can see them easily, and I'll have to scoot my camera back because this game does take up quite a bit of table space, but it looks great. Starting out, everybody's going to get a certain number of locomotives depending on number of players. With a 4-player game, each player would reach in the bag and draw 8 locomotives out at random and place them behind their player screen. So just take turns drawing out your starting locomotives, and then once everybody has their 8 or however many you're supposed to start with, once they have them behind their screens, now we're going to do the tedious part of setting up these boards. So this is my least favorite part of this game. You just have to dump out all the trains that are in the bag and separate them. And if you have everybody help you, it doesn't take too long, but I'm gonna fast forward this for the video. But basically you're gonna seed each one of these with the appropriate train color, and it will look something like this when it's all set up. And it's necessary because now you can look and see how many trains are left of each color. So these boards really help you visualize this, and this is an important part of the game. As you can see, red starting out has the most trains missing. So you don't know who has red, but it still provides some important information starting out the game. So let's show you what you do on your turn. You have one of 2 possible actions when you take your turn. The first thing you can do is take 1 to 5 trains of a single color and place them on the map. So they have to just be adjacent to another train of the same color. So you're going to start here in Paris and work outward. Every city that you touch is going to up the value in stock of that train. So most spots are worth 0, but if you touch a white city, that's worth 1, 2 for the purples, and so on. So every city that you touch is going to up the value on this track over here of whatever train color that you placed. So let's say this player starts the game by placing yellow trains. You always take them from the boards over here and place them on the map adjacent to another yellow. So they're going to touch 3 white cities here, 1 point each. That means yellow goes up by 3 in stock value. And each train hidden behind your screen is basically a share of stock in that color. So that's how you get points, is having the right colors behind your screen. Now remember, you can do one of 2 different things on your turn. The first thing is placing trains on the map. The other thing you could do is trade trains. So you can trade 1 train for up to 2 of a different color. So let's say you see a value going up on the track, like the yellow is going up now, and this player wants to trade out a brown train for 2 yellow trains. So you put those back on the board, and you take them off of here and put them behind your screen. These act as shares of stock in yellow, and these will score you points at the end. So the whole game is a balancing act. Do I build out a route, or do I invest in the colors that are going up in value? You can't do both on your turn, but you do have to do one of those two things. So eventually these colors are going to run out, and a lot of times there'll be a rush on a certain color. Players will hurry up and invest and just gobble up a certain color, and it's such an interesting push and pull between everybody, and the players entirely drive this game, and the outcome is totally up to the players each time. You do have a hand limit on how many shares you're allowed to invest in, depending on how many players. So a 4-player game says you can never have more than 15 trains behind your screen. And that number goes down as you get higher in player count. But basically, if you go over that limit, you're going to lose 20 points per train that you're over your hand limit. So there is a limit to how much you can just keep investing. You have to know when to invest and in which colors. It's a lot trickier than it sounds. And I think for a stock market type of game, this is so brilliantly simple and easy to grasp, yet it's so hard to figure out when to pounce on certain colors. When should I build out a route and make it worth more? Because, then the other players are just going to jump in and invest in that color. So you kind of have to hang back, know when to pounce on certain colors. You don't want to be too obvious with which colors you have behind your screen, but there is a little bit of information out there for all to see because those boards show you how many colors are left. And there's some surprise moments as these routes reach the higher value cities. The purple and pink cities are going to be worth more. And a lot of times you'll have a dead, color that all of a sudden springs into the lead. And it's just kind of cool. Another thing you can do is just place trains out in the grass and try to waste the supply away. Like if you don't have a lot of purple shares and you see a lot of people investing in purple, maybe you want to spend a turn just ruining the purple supply by placing them in the grass. So the more you play this, the more you start to get the hang of, when to do what. But every game is so vastly different because it's entirely up to the players how the game progresses. And here you can see red is going to jump way up by 5 points because you're starting to hit those pink and purple cities on the outer edges of the map. Now, as soon as a train touches this blue city down here, which is worth 4 points, the game ends immediately. So that's one way the game can end. Another way the game can end is there's only one color remaining over here in the supply. So only one of those boards has trains left, then the game ends as well. So players can decide if they want to push the pace down to this blue city and end the game quicker, or prolong the game by avoiding the blue city and building out the other routes. Again, entirely up to the players how this game paces and everything. So let's say this player wants to build down toward that blue city. All of a sudden, the other players are going to start getting nervous. Like, oh, do I need to hurry up and invest in yellow? Or maybe I don't want the game to end yet and I'll build the yellow route up here so that it can't reach the blue city. And, there's just lots of ways that this can play out, and it's different every single time. And I'm just fascinated by games like this that seem way too simple, but just keep you coming back. They're so addicting. It actually reminds me a little bit of the game Quandary, which I featured a couple weeks ago on my page. Another thing I didn't mention, when you do lay trains in the rural areas, so not the city areas, you can cross paths. You can have up to 2 different color trains on these rural spots, but you are not allowed to cross paths in the cities, so only 1 train per city. But this allows you to crisscross some of the paths, so a color is never totally blocked in. Now maybe that black train is going to make a run down toward the blue city and end the game that way. You just never know. This game plays out differently every time, and that keeps it fresh. I just want to keep playing this one. Notice these little red striped areas. I forgot to mention these. Basically, that just means you cannot build adjacent to that. You would have to build around those. And it's not a big deal, but just to show you here, like if you had your blue train there, you could not place a blue train here yet. You would first have to go around this way. And this is probably just something that they came up with during play testing to balance out the board a little bit. But there's a few of those little red striped areas throughout the map. Just something else to keep in mind. Now let's speed this up a little bit. Later in the game, maybe brown is starting to make a run here. They've been hanging back all game, and maybe this player decides now's the time to build up brown. And, so now players are going to start trading out and maybe taking some brown. But as you trade out colors, you're making those colors available again to the other players. So now red up there has 2 more trains, so now a player can build out more on red when before it was emptied. Now brown here is within 3 spots of finishing the game, as you can see, but maybe the next player doesn't want to end the game yet, so they build out this way. And it's just a constant surprise every time you play this. It definitely requires lots of tactical thinking, reacting to the board every turn, but there is some long-term strategy, especially if you have certain colors that you're holding on to behind your screen. When is the right moment to make the run and try to make those colors worth more? For instance, as you'll see here, black has been hanging back all game, and all of a sudden, if they push down to the finish here, that blue city's worth 4. Black just made a run at the end of the game and is now worth the second most amount of points, and nobody has been investing in the black trains the whole time. So if you play it right, you can surprise some people and really score big toward the late game. And once the game end is triggered, just look at this track up here, and that's how many points each train you own behind your screen is going to be worth. So every blue train behind your screen will be worth 6 points each. Every brown train is 8 points, 10 for those, and 13 for the purple. And then you just add up all your trains behind your screen based on those values, and that's your total points. Now remember, you don't want to go over your hand limit, so we got to make sure we don't have more than 15 trains in a 4-player game. If you do have more than 15, you're going to lose 20 points per train that you're over. So there might be a situation where you still win and you go over your hand limit, but I don't think I've ever seen that happen. So you definitely want to stay within your hand limit. So there you have it. That's Paris Connection, and I would definitely recommend this game. I have it rated an 8 out of 10. It's one of those games that's so easy to learn and teach. You can teach it to all types of gamers. All skill levels can get into this. It plays up to 6 players, which is also a plus. Simple rules, agonizing decisions, tough to master. Every game is unique because of the player-driven system, and that's probably my favorite part, is how different each game feels. I have 2 minor complaints which I touched on earlier. One is the fiddly components. These player screens do not want to stay up unless you fold them just right. And then these wooden trains, I love the way these look. I just wish they were easier to pick up and drop off. Wooden cubes would have been the better choice functionally, but I do understand why they made the train pieces, and I love wooden pieces, so I can overlook that. I just wish they were a little easier to pick up and move. And my second complaint is that setup time of those boards on the right side there. You have to draw out of the bag randomly at first to give everybody their starting pieces, but then you have to dump the bag out and separate all those trains, and it just takes a while. And since the supply is limited, the order of that does matter. So if anybody has any ideas on a quicker setup for this game, let me know in the comments. Let me know what your favorite train game is. What's your favorite John Bohrer game? I really enjoy reading all your comments. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. That really helps my channel grow. And if you want to help the channel more, there's a PayPal link in the description. You can donate any amount you want to, and that just helps me produce better quality content in the future. I really enjoy sharing these undiscovered games with you, and I would love to continue to do so. So there you have it, Paris Connection. I'd probably rate it a 9 out of 10 if it weren't for those fiddly components, because I think the gameplay is that good. It fascinates me how a game so simple can be so good and keep me coming back again and again. Before I sign off, make sure you also follow my Instagram page at undiscovered_games, where I post a lot of written reviews and cool pictures. And once again, make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you can learn about more undiscovered games in the future. Thanks again for watching. I will see you on the next video.